Hello everyone, I'm Yasmine Mahoudieh, just continuing. Yes, so welcome everybody. I'm an architect and designer. I started my first office in California, in Los Angeles, and I'm based now in London and Milan. And I'm going to take you to a bit of a journey of my work in architecture and design with a strong emphasis on sustainability, which has been my passion for decades, not just for the last years, and how you can implement it in architecture and design. We are working 70% on hospitality worldwide, but also office, retail, I mean all kinds of projects, but with a strong emphasis on trying to innovate through technology and through materials. And I will also talk a bit about 3D printing and furniture we are designing from recycled plastics, and to show projects that, that hopefully give you some inspiration of what can be done already now. I'm just going through a few projects, and while they might not seem different than a typical project, I could talk a lot about the materials on each one. I will show you the materials a bit later, but I want you to see that implementing them can create, I think, innovative architecture and not using the normal resources in traditional building. I mean, this was a project where we won an architecture award in Dubai for a fly hotel, and actually this was a collaboration with a Dutch architect called Cas Osterhaus, and it was about a new technology that came from the moon about mass customization to do this architectural facade, which is at the same time customized, and you will just take it on site, prefabricated in Holland, and then have it implemented. And the idea was that I proposed to have a hangar with water planes when in Dubai they were building the world, and I said, you will not see it unless you're in a bird's eye perspective. And this was a big project in St. Petersburg. It's the old marketplace, which is a hotel, office center, and also office buildings, and it's about transforming, a project, an historic site with new technology. We printed, pixelated the facade with images of the Mariinsky Theater, which is in vicinity to the site. So for me, there has to be a very strong connection to the location, to the country, and the culture we're working in, but always with a new interpretation of it. And this is in the Swiss Alps. It's a hotel, a ski hotel in Verbier. And again, some of the materials, there are alternative materials for fabrics which are sustainable. And also there's an idea of a red thread going through the hotel with the icicle, which you see in the wintertime in ski resorts, and not just the dark wood that you're usually seeing and just passing through. This is a project in Italy. Again, it's a very interesting material. It's similar to Korean. It's actually from LG, from Himax, and it's an international art gallery and a luxury spa, where this is one piece of furniture that is formed from Himax, and it becomes the reception desk. And again, this is a material which is quite sustainable compared to many other that you can use, and very flexible in its use. And even these materials that you see on in the wet area, they are not the normal tiles. They're all from Italian companies which are working on sustainable materials, and it's just giving you also an idea that there is so much you can do in visual appearance that doesn't have to be the typical tile or the typical stone material that you find to create new spaces in design. We are working on, I'm working on my own luxury hotel brand with a wellness and spa with a longevity biohacking concept. We are using augmented reality with a company that can create these kind of wood structures from reclaimed wood. So it's very sophisticated, but I can only touch on it that even augmented reality can be a tool to use in architecture and design in the future. And to use, we have materials that come from hemp fabric, from vegan leather, and I will show you some samples later on, just to give you some visual ideas, and then you will see the material. Also, when we are talking about architecture, it's not about, putting a lot of plants outside or having balconies, with plants or around the building, but how do you integrate actually plants with architecture, and how's the interaction between them instead of just an application or a decoration? One of the organic materials, the microorganism, which I'm very excited about, is mycelium, which is the root of fungus, which to me is the most amazing material I found in my lifetime, because you will see in a moment you can use it for so many different applications. You can use it for acoustic tiles, and it's really the root of fungus. So it's older than trees, and they call it the internet of nature. It's like a network underneath the soil. And it can be used for furniture design, for lighting, and the advantages it has is quite amazing. We are exploring now to do it, to kind of produce 3D printing from mycelium, which hasn't really been done beside a few artist sculptures. But I think when I talk later about 3D printing, it would be the most sustainable way of production in the world. And having kind of plant-based materials, we're exploring with other materials too. We have been featured with our exhibitions around the world, and I just want to talk a bit about sustainability in general, what's happening in the world, because I talk about this subject at many international events, including the World Economic Forum in Davos and COP28. But this plastic we are producing is, we don't see it, but it's there. And only 9% of plastic is being recycled, which means 91% goes into landfill and in the oceans. Some countries which are very affected are Thailand, for example, and it's that some developing countries are buying, are getting paid to kind of hide the plastic, and it's a major problem for our environment. And I think as architects we have to explore ways to reduce it and to substitute it in the future. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's a process that needs to be started. AI can be a very interesting tool in this, in this transition, and it can also be a very interesting tool for data science to understand what can be done and where's the biggest effect of it. We all have already microplastics in our body. It's because of the environment, because of the plastic that's produced. And when it's washed with water, even like in clothing, it ends up in our food, in everywhere. And it's really scary when you understand how much tons of plastic are already, coming out every single day in the world. And I had a video which sadly doesn't work, but it's showing how the size of Paris is every day being filled with plastic around the world. And it is a very alarming process, and I think we have to be aware of it. And we have to think about sustainability in design, because furniture that we're using is, and has a certain lifetime, but how can we recycle it? What can we do in order to prolong the life cycle? So we have been researching for decades with my team sustainable materials from all over the world to come up with alternatives. And one of my goals is to really replace concrete, because concrete is responsible for 8% of CO2 in the world. And I know a lot of architects have been using concrete, and it's, we didn't know better, and it was very difficult to replace it. But there are alternatives, and I'm trying to show you a few, and hopefully, you will do your own research to see what else there is. But just going quickly through these materials, these are some examples of what we have found that are eco-materials that can be used for interior design, partly also for exterior construction. And it's very often from leftover, from waste, from industrial waste, from other waste of furniture and fabrics, and repurposed. And repurposed by artists, by companies, by other architects. And this is an example from food waste. We can also do tableware from food waste today. And this is also tile work, just totally created by food waste. And the thing is that there are so many options today, especially when you also use these new materials with 3D printing. that can be a very seamless way to create beautiful design objects and architecture. And I'm just going through some visuals to give you some kind of inspiration. Even these materials like the carbon alternatives, OC is made, it's a passive process, and it's also, we have materials that can change the CO2 into a positive outcome. And for example, this one here is from atmospheric CO2. It's kind of trapped within these triangular elements, and you can even use it for renovation of facades. And I think we can see it can be quite beautiful. So there's a misconception that you can either have beautiful materials or you have sustainable materials, and I try to show the opposite with our work and with the research we have been doing. As I said before, the 3D printing is the most pure way of printing because you don't have leftover. You practically use filaments that are shredded from existing plastics, and there are companies who also take out all the toxins, so it's not contaminating it. And in construction, there's going to be more and more 3D building in design and architecture. One of the areas which is very much going forward is also the UAE, where there's a lot of housing being built already 3D printed. I'm coming back just to mycelium and plastic just as an juxtaposition to show you how much less energy is used through mycelium and how much is used by, by plastics, and how mycelium can be used in beautiful ways for furniture, for design, and with all the attributes I've talked about, but going into architecture, into packaging, insulation, but even into food. It is more healthy than soy food, actually. And mycelium, there's a company in America who already started a food company with mycelium. And again, showing you the insulation panels, construction potential of mycelium, and a few other examples where, again, we turn something that's threatening our planet into something beautiful, like the plastic bricks, which are as strong as concrete, and they're totally done from recycled plastics. And there's something where we are, you can replace a lot of the cement in concrete and in a very thin layer, and these are some of them that are already reducing a lot of the concrete, that's the typical concrete used for architecture. One of the materials we explored, which we are proposing for some projects in Saudi Arabia, is this material which is done from desert sand, and it's biodegradable and it's as strong as concrete, but has less the carbon imprint as concrete. And these are some examples of some other artists who have done this work with mycelium in the past. And this is just the beginning, for architecture, because you do have still to solve a few problems with the sturdity. It's not just for temporary structures, but mycelium is always used with bioplastics, and so there's still research needs to be done in order to make it stronger, but it's on its way, it's happening right now. I've been trying to display my work also through exhibitions. We were invited to do an installation at the Design Miami Basel installation in 2022, which I called Floniversum, the flow of life and flow of universe, and where we were working with 3D printing from recycled plastic. It's all 3D printed, and it's like an ocean wave, and the idea is that it is taking all the plastic that's bumped into the ocean and transforming it into beautiful object architecture design. I created this NFT series which shows the transformation called Metamorphosis, and also the two chairs that are symbolic here are called the flow chair, which is actually in production, and we are also being considered for the permanent collection at the Centre Pompidou in Paris. And it's everything that you see is totally 3D printed from recycled plastic. But the wall elements are showing that we can already build architecture like this. We're actually proposing a beach pavilion totally 3D printed from the recycled plastic for Athens. And it is possible to do architecture with it. So my pledge is to say to use what we have, because we can't magically make plastic disappear, and create art and architecture and design with it. And I mean, you can see in the way the production is done, the filaments, the detailing of it. A lot of comments we had at the fair is that, you know, you have a preconception that plastic looks cheap. This is very sturdy. It's very heavy also. You know, it doesn't kind of fly away with wind. Each chair is like 20 kilos, so it's like taking away of 20 kilo of plastics. And then the way of the variation of the coloring, which is quite sophisticated to do, because it's not just, you know, 3D printing from CAD drawings, but you have to have somebody from quantum computing in your team and somebody who can prepare the files for the robots to be printed. And yeah, we have won several international awards for the flow chair. And then this is the newest product which we displayed last year at the Biennale in Venice, at the Architecture Biennale, London Design Festival, and there's a new version coming into the Milan, the Salone del Mobile. Inside, which you can't see here, but there's an NFC chip integrated in the 3D printing. So it's not only for authenticity, which, you know, we always have to fight a bit with as architects and designers, but it's also to be connected to the blockchain and be able to communicate with the buyer through information about how the chair is done. It's called Turn Me because you can turn it, and it's either a chair or a table, and you can make a bench or you can use it in different ways. I was also invited, sorry, before I go to the next one. This is the collection that is coming out, actually, we started last year, but it's coming out this year. And again, it's all 3D printed from recycled plastic, and to explore what we can also, print that's not possible to produce in traditional building techniques. There's a few images. Yeah, these are some images. I was invited to participate at an NFT exhibition in Lugano last year, and actually this is with augmented reality. So there's a company who created an app which is for the metaverse, and it's the first app in the world that has augmented reality for the metaverse. So this is symbolizing a bit the furniture that I designed, but it's in augmented reality, and the mushrooms are like, you know, mycelium taking over. Can we have the next one? Yeah, and so they also call it digital design because the front is the real Turn Me, and then the rest is all augmented reality. And we were in this palazzo in Lugano, and in the center was this kind of mirrored surface, which was supposed to look like the ocean surface. And there are water bottles. I have a little video about it in a second, and it would show you how these water bottles turn into design. I think I have one more image, and now we can go to the video. So the video shows the installation that was for the opening of this exhibition, where, you know, it looks like I'm triggering the water bottles to create these augmented reality experience, but for my work, it's always about awareness of the environment. So it's not just about technology and augmented reality, but the message here, it was called Oceana Walk, is to say we can turn these plastic waste into beautiful objects, and we use it in art and design and in architecture. Another element I like to touch on is the robotic touch, and we have been doing a lot of research with universities. This is from ETH in Zurich, where there's a lot of experiment being done with sustainable materials that are, I told you, some of these brick that are sustainable leftover bricks, and robotics, and how you can start shaping architecture and design and getting amazing patterns that you will not be able to do in normal construction. So all these are done by robots, and it's quite fascinating how you can expand architecture and design visually by using robotics in architecture, which I think is something of the future. Or it's not actually of the future already now, but it's always very interesting to work with the research departments of universities, where there is the freedom and time and sometimes resources to be able to experiment how you can create structure, how you can create beautiful facade for architecture and interiors. And here just some examples of how these robots are being creating these beautiful sculptures, columns in design. And I'm going through a few more materials on our search to substitute the typical ones. I talked about mycelium, and these are, maybe you heard about green cement. I don't know if some heard about it, but it's called also geopolymer concrete. And this is something that has significantly less CO2 emissions to concrete. And I think you can see the really similarity to concrete, although it doesn't have the damaging effect to our environment. And maybe hemp seed and hemp fabric. Some of the projects I showed you before had the hemp fabric, but this one is also being used as an alternative to concrete. And very often they are like absolutely fascinating materials. Bamboo, I think you probably in Asia you know quite well how bamboo can be a very strong element, and also an alternative for traditional building materials. These are biodegradable insulation materials. Again, everything that you see is either from waste or it's from natural resources. And then there are the solar roof tiles as an example of photovoltaic cells that are inside the roofing material. So they do look like traditional, but they are very tech, and it doesn't look like it. So this is kind of the interesting thing what we did in our research, to find also materials that don't look like they have the technology in them. My next exhibition that I'm preparing is for an exhibition at the Biennale in Venice, in the Art Biennale, called Metamorphosis, which is the idea to turn this palazzo at the Canale Grande in Venice into an art exhibition, showing on one hand recycled plastic to solve the issues of today, and mycelium to show as a substitute in the future, by having these elements which are a bit, like the root of fungus, becoming more like a surface, like a bar surface, or the reception desk which has recycled 3D printed plastic, and the mycelium which is kind of growing out like the idea of something new that's going to substitute something. So these are all, again, ideas that you go to these big events, cultural events, to get not awareness, but also hopefully to inspire other architects. And because we are in Venice, by the sea, this is like a big ocean wave from recycled plastic, again, to show what we can do. We have also dedicated a lot of time into furniture for children, because what people don't understand is that a lot of the materials that's surrounding us has toxins. Most of wood has formaldehyde, which is a cancer agent. So some of the biggest disease in the world are coming from the materials where we're constantly living in 24/7 in buildings. So this exhibition, which was at the Furniture Fair in Cologne just before the pandemic, is also showing how we used all natural materials for children. The floor is antibacterial, anti-odor. It's actually cleaning the air. It's a patent done with a university in Milan by an Italian company. We have apple leather, and then we have special felt chairs which also take the noise when kids are very noisy, and it's reclaimed wood. And if we used MDF, it's a Spanish company that doesn't have the formaldehyde as binders, they have natural binders. So this is something where we are creating these kids' places that we are integrating into hotels, into airports, shopping malls, and we also take care of the educational part by giving them life skills that the universities or schools sadly have failed to teach children in today's world. And here's just some of the areas of how these spaces look like. And this is my project that won the Opal Award in 2020, 2 hotels by the Baltic Sea. And again, the materials are sustainable, they are not the normal wood, reclaimed wood from Holland. And then we have a lot of materials. This is fabric that's from leftover fabric reused for a fabric company. And so there's a lot of details from the materials that I've shown you integrated into the design for these 2 beach hotels. And again, pixelation used for the blur between the past and today, because it's about narratives, like we heard before, where the law to have bathing suits for women around the world was given in 1928 on this beach, and we pixelated it on tiles which are also sustainable from an Italian company. And here I'm just going through some projects where we have used, one project is missing, sorry. But go to the next one. Again, this is like copper and fabric yarn, this kind of screen around the bed. This was about an exhibition with Penguin Books about a luxury suite where we also use sound and sand. It takes too long to play all this today, but it's to have a holistic experience of spaces. And it's continuing. And then also, this is another project outside Vienna in Austria, where there's digital in the wood. There's, these artist tables are done with artists with real plans, tiles, and it's a project that is LEED certified. So we work with either LEED, GREEN, or EarthCheck, which are the certifications that I would encourage everyone, as an architect, to convince the clients to work with, because then you have certain criteria that you have to fulfill to do your projects. I'm showing this project because for me, sustainability is also longevity. This is the Intercontinental that I designed in 2006, so it's a very old project. And it's still not changed. It's never renovated. It's changed operator. It's now Kempinski. So for me, design that stays, for a very long time. When I go to hotel conferences today, the longevity of an interior design usually is in hospitality is 5 to 7 years. So I'm trying to show that it doesn't need to be that short, which is also interesting for investors, that you can have materials and design that will outlast and will be lasting for a very long time. And we have a partnership with a French-Vietnamese office in Ho Chi Minh City. And the idea of the Kenote lodges, which they developed, is about having these lodges that can be dismantled and actually put up in 6 months, and they're totally sustainable. And they're against earthquakes, anti-typhoon, and I redesigned them because they were a bit more dark, and I redesigned them in a more lighter way. So these are some proposals for the Maldives. You can have them in mountain area or seaside area, and again, they're totally sustainable, everything that there is, and it's a prefabricated concept, which you can just add on if you have a hotel site. Again, these are some projects ongoing for some Greek resorts, and again, they might look like the normal, but these are vegan leather. These are some tiles from Israel, which are they're not burnt in a lot of heat, so they don't create CO2. They created a technology where they can do this with this kind of three-dimensional tiles, and you have the bio wall, which is integrated with plants on the upper right hand. So each material is not a typical; it's a sustainable material. This is banana veneer on the top, and then again we have different materials that are replacing the normal stone, the normal concrete in architecture. And the architectural projects, like I said to you, we have this is a project which was for Berlin, a Kunsthalle, a proposal just before the financial crisis, and then it stopped. But it's also having a material which is called Smart Slab, developed by an engineer from Arup, which can show digital the installations inside, and the roof has a special structure where, according to the light coming in and out, it can close down, and so it's much more energy efficient than a normal building. It's just adjusting through sensor technology. And I'm proud to say that a lot of the projects have won awards, and we are on our way to try to be a practice that is really truly sustainable, and we do not encourage any material to be used that is not sustainable as much as we can. And we're seeing the interest of our clients growing, beside the fact that in Europe, for example, there's very strict laws now on regulations on what you can use or not. You're going to have to pay carbon taxes for a lot of the projects. So I think the most important is to convince the clients, and then the architect and designers, they have to do their own research. They have to find alternatives and not just, talking about it, because I hear the word used a lot. And that's also going to change in a year from now, where these words cannot be used unless there is a proof that they are implemented, because there have been too much greenwashing in the world. And I think in China, as a huge country, I can see that there is a lot of interest in making the country, you know, the air quality healthier. I know that Shanghai and Beijing has been extremely polluted, and I know that there's a lot done, that the air quality has already improved, but I think it's something for everybody that works on cities planning, on architecture and design, to really understand that even if it's a small thing you can do something. It's not about waiting for, you know, some discovery or something to happen. You can do something from today on. And my wish would be that anybody, you know, who attended my lecture today takes something away and has an action plan of, you know, even like a few things you write down you're going to change as an architect, as a designer in the future, and you're not waiting for anything else to happen. And if we all do this, we will be in a healthier world, because I do believe it's not just better for the planet, but it's better for our health. And as you know, longevity is a very interesting subject right now, and it's a $1 trillion business. But longevity will not, you know, by technology and all the innovations in treatments and preventive medicine will not help us if, on the other hand, we're exposed to toxins, true materials, to, you know, already toxins from the, you know, environment. But we have to understand that there are already materials that clean the, you know, the environment. I mean, I only showed you a few of our 300+ library, and we're going to launch at the end of the year a marketplace, which is going to be a B2B marketplace on only sustainable materials, to really help these small companies, mid-size and bigger companies, to be known globally, and to make it easier and to facilitate, you know, the discovery that we have done, because there is a lot we can do. And I hope you got a bit of inspiration and understanding, and I'm here for questions. Thank you.
非常感谢贾斯汀·穆罕默德女